In this comparative study, I will be exploring the influence of psychoanalytic theory throughout psychological thrillers. The films Fight Club and Oldboy highlight the influence of psychoanalytic theory within psychological thrillers through the utilization of unique film techniques such as cinematography, mise en scène, and sound design. These films match perfectly as they are less than a decade apart but explore the influence of psychoanalytic theory on psychological genres in different parts of the world, as Fight Club is made in the United States and Oldboy was made in Korea. Psychological thrillers often draw on psychoanalytic theory to create grounded, unsettling stories that explore the nature of the human mind through a gritty and immoral undertone. Psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud explores how the human mind is under constant change through every action. Utilizing this concept within film immerses the audience within a dark, disoriented reality trapped in the psyche of the main protagonist, blurring the lines between reality and perception to build suspense. The film Fight Club, directed by David Fincher in 1999, is a film that explores themes of masculinity, identity, and consumerism through the main protagonist, the narrator. Fight Club reflects growing consumerism in the late 1990s, highlighting the unsocial awareness and the crisis of masculinity, while highlighting the rapid shifts of Western society through the development of cities and societal roles. On the other hand, the film Oldboy, directed by Park Chan-wook, is a South Korean psychological thriller following Oh Dae-soo, a man released from prison after serving a 15-year jail sentence without explanation. Oldboy emerged from a significant time in cinema for South Korea, often called the Korean New Wave, which resembles Korea's rapid economic growth and cultural shifts. The film highlights culturally significant themes of revenge throughout traditional Korean literacy of Han, a concept relating to the deep resentment of grief within a person's mind. To begin, Fight Club utilizes color and framing of cinematography to highlight the narrator's fractured psyche through insomnia and the seductive chaos that Tyler Durden brings. Throughout the film, Fincher employs muted color palettes of darker tint to point out the themes of alienation and societal decay. Most of the scenes filmed in Tyler's home point out the monochromatic color scheme to highlight the sense of despair and mental isolation, reflecting the narrator's current state of mind. Also, the framing within Fight Club emphasizes the disorientation and identity crisis that the narrator is going through. In the Jack I'm Smirking revenge scene, a series of close-ups and rapid cuts intensifies the narrator's feeling of entrapment as Tyler lingers in the back of his mind, not knowing what is real and fake.
I am Jack's smirking revenge.
Much like Fight Club, Park and Oldboy utilizes color and framing to highlight the protagonist's psychological journey as he seeks out vengeance. Park employs intense color contrast of red and yellow to create emotional tension throughout the film's atmosphere. The hallway fight scene is a continuous side-scrolling action scene filled with blood and dark visuals to reflect the corruption of Day's mind due to his rage. Additionally, Park utilizes framing to isolate Day in moments of despair. A wide-angle shot captures Day's first day out of jail surrounded by a swarm of people, highlighting his isolation in a world that just got 10 times bigger. While both films utilize color and framing to explore themes of psychoanalysis, they both do so in their own distinctive cultural and stylistic ways. Fight Club relies heavily on muted color tones to represent the darkness filling the narrator's mind. At the same time, Oldboy utilizes color palettes as contrast to create suspenseful scenes, highlighting the gore and despair of moments within the film. However, both films intricately utilize framing to display the social alienation of both their characters through wide-angle shots or close-ups to encapsulate psychoanalytic theory within their respective films. The framing in each film tells a different story for each character but ultimately highlights the mental issues of both in the end. Although both films utilize cinematography in different ways, the concept of psychoanalysis is still conveyed through the utilization of film elements to highlight the protagonist's psychological shifts and build suspense for thrill. Next, the mise en scène in Fight Club reflects the narrator's detachment from society and the rupture of his psyche, leading him to chaos. Tyler's house is crucial to this as it is a neglected and crumbling space filled with mismatched furniture and broken windows. The state of Tyler's house closely reflects the narrator's mental state, creating parallels of decay in his mind in Tyler's house. Similarly, the setting in Oldboy is confined to Day's prison cell, which is central to the psychological impact of the film as it symbolizes the character's entrapment within the psyche, much like Fight Club. The cell is very dark and eerie, with tally marks etched into the wall to represent his internment of isolation and descent into madness. Costuming also plays a crucial role in establishing differences between the narrator's real life and his psyche's alter ego. The dull corporate attire of the narrator is reflected in Tyler's bold and fashionable wardrobe, which includes baggy jeans and stylistic glasses. Tyler's Hawaiian patterned shirt and bold red leather jacket represents attraction and allure, highlighting the narrator's want to be seen within society. Much like the narrator, Day's costuming also reflects his mental transition from a scuffed prisoner jumpsuit to a clean suit he wears while seeking vengeance, reflecting his determination throughout the film. The stark change in clothing choice is also reflected in his psyche, going from helpless prisoner to vengeful killer. The props utilized by Fincher in Fight Club deepen the narrator's connection to the desire for self-destruction. The soap highlights the urge to be self-cleansed and wash away his past life of a boring desk job, along with the Fight Club, which symbolizes the narrator's wants to be more masculine through brutal force and wash away his boring lifestyle. These things are all prompted and brought to life by Tyler, which represents his psyche wanting to take full control over his life. Props utilized by Park in Oldboy, like the hammer in the hallway fight scene, add to the film's uncontrolled and violent theme. As the scene progresses, it symbolizes Day's vengeance and uncontrolled rage during the 15 years he has been imprisoned, highlighting the psychological toll it has taken on his thought process, much like the narrator's alter ego does. These elements of mise en scène dive into the psyche of each character, reflecting the influence of psychoanalysis on the genre. The sudden change in wardrobes of each character highlights the break in their psyches, going from no one to someone, reflecting later events in the film as both characters go through psychological shifts. The setting reflects their issues of decay and isolation within their mind, as those are the places most memorable to them. Also, the props in each film are utilized differently, but for the same meaning. The soap bar and hammer both take a toll on the characters' identity as they display who they are. Finally, the soundtrack within Fight Club utilizes chaotic and pulsing sounds to highlight the narrator's psyche. Fincher utilizes this certain design of sound within the film to relay the constant change of the narrator's psyche throughout the film. For example, the song Where's My Mind by the Pixies played in the final moments of this scene, which directly correlates to the narrator's feelings towards the end of the film, as he learns Tyler is a figment of his imagination, rupturing his psyche in the process. The narrator has flashbacks of all the criminal things Tyler has done since they met, and dives into emotional struggle, then comes to a sudden realization that it is too late. Unlike Fight Club, Park utilizes a more orchestral score to give the film an unsettling tone and build suspension. As Day begins to uncover who imprisoned him for so long, orchestral music begins to play, reflecting his growing passion and intensity to find out the truth, trapping him in a never-ending cycle. The sound design is also utilized during self-reflection through a more melancholic instrumentals as the tragedies from his past reawaken, giving the audience a look into Day's fragile mind and the emotional impact he endured. Although both films utilize sound design for different reasons, both of them reflect emotional struggle over their psyches. The soundtrack within Fight Club highlights the narrator's progressive change of his psyche from emotional stress of his lifestyle and loss of masculinity. Similar to Fight Club, the musical scores utilized in Oldboy captures Day's emotional struggle as he finds out more and more, causing him to fall deeper and deeper into a wormhole, rupturing his psyche along the way. To conclude, Fight Club and Oldboy highlight the influence of psychoanalytic theory on the psychological thriller by comparing and contrasting the two films concerning one another. Even though psychoanalytic theory is mentioned within the name psychological thriller, the influence that Sigmund Freud's theory holds within the genre is very prevalent through the progressive change of the main protagonist's psyche. In this case, both films offer unique portrayals of identity change and their respective themes, such as consumerism and vengeance, which overlays the messages of psychoanalytic theory. Although both films are culturally different, they share similar influences through specific film elements that exemplify the influence of psychoanalysis in shaping psychological thrillers, such as cinematography, mise en scène, and sound design, which all work together to build a suspenseful story that dives into the psyches of troubled protagonists.